Hi, I'm Subin. I'm the founder of Groyyo. We are a B2B manufacturing startup.
Do you think textile and fashion, like technically,
Textile typically connotes more of your raw material, fabric, yarn.
uh,
Fashion connotes more of the garments and apparel, which is what we do.
and you're more on the fashion side, right?
We are more on the fashion side. We don't
You're
really do
totally in
the.
the fashion side, I think.
We
You're
are totally
not
in the
on.
fashion side. We don't do the textile stuff.
Okay, got it. Okay, cool. Okay, so Subin, welcome to the Founder Thesis podcast. I like to start my podcast with a reverse pitch. We are going to learn about the fashion space from a supply chain perspective. Why are you the right person to talk about this?
Because we have built, I think, in an industry that is going through a lot of change, a lot of disruption. Um, One of the few tech-enabled, profitable SME-led supply chains. Um, and I think there is still a lot more for us to do, but the foundations of that have been in the right place.
Okay, help me understand the overall industry first. Like there would be uh, right customer facing right in the front of the supply chain would be like a Zara,
Correct.
and
Yeah.
right at the other end would be someone like a Reliance, which would be manufacturing the yarn. Just take
Correct.
me through the whole supply chain once. Help me understand the
So on the,
structure
you're
of it.
absolutely right. On the absolute front end, you have the consumer, which shops from a fast fashion house, be it a Zara, Uniqlo, or a Mango. You will, in some cases, have a stockist or wholesaler in between who will play the role of managing the inventory and stocking the goods in that country. You will have the apparel manufacturer or the garmenter, which is in countries like India, Bangladesh, Vietnam. They will then source from a fabricator or a fabric mill who will supply to them the fabric cloth that is used for that making that particular garment. And then behind that you would have a yarn mill which would sell to the fabric mill, which will again spin that yarn. And if you go a step behind that, you have the fiber mill, which will actually sell the raw fiber to the yarn mill, which will churn that into yarn. That's pretty much the entire value chain.
Give me some prominent names for each of these in the supply chain.
So on the brand side, of course, the fast fashion ones are very
Yeah,
big.
Zara, Uniqlo.
On
Yeah.
the garmenter side, you have Shahi Exports, Gokuldas Exports, PDS, which are all large listed players in India. On the fabric side, you have likes of
So these
Arvind.
like Gokuldas and all, they don't sell, but they produce as per specification. Like the
Correct,
client would
correct,
say that I want
absolutely.
a white shirt, and
They
they'll
are a
be
hardcore
providing.
manufacturer. Of course, they, including us, have design capabilities, so we do come up with
Hmm.
designs,
Okay.
but we don't take that decision of what to sell. We
Hmm.
will get a
Hmm.
order from a brand, and basis
Hmm.
that order, we will manufacture, right?
Okay.
So that's
Okay.
exactly what a Shahi or a Gokul Das do.
Hmm.
Um, on the fabric side, you have likes of say Arvind, Raymond, Vardhaman, who are all large fabric mills. Um, on the yarn side, gets slightly more fragmented. It's not a lot of very large listed players.
Okay. And where is Reliance in this?
Reliance is more on the fiber and yarn side, specifically more on polyesters, where
Okay.
they've had a historical dominance.
Hmm.
There is
That
Reliance
was,
Retail in
I
India,
think,
which is also on the
even
front end.
before petroleum, their first line of business was this
Their
only,
first
right?
line of business was the
Polyester.
polyester business.
Hmm.
And they are to a certain extent on the front end because they have Reliance Retail, which
Yeah.
runs a fast fashion business in India as well. So to that
Right.
extent, now they're on the front end as well. They are not on the apparel manufacturing side as aggressively
Hmm.
as of yet.
Hmm. And Arvind is also again on front end. Like Arvind
Correct.
owns like Van Heusen and a
Absolutely.
couple of
I
these,
think
and
historically
they
what's
also.
happened is if you look at a lot of these large manufacturing businesses in India and Vietnam, as they have grown and become very profitable over the years, they have then redeployed that profit to think that, okay, we are selling a garment to a brand for $5 and the brand is selling it for $20, $25, right? So why should we leave that part of the value not captured? Much
Hmm.
rather use our expertise capital and just go into that part of the value chain as well. And that transition has played out with most of these guys. Some have succeeded, some have not. But inherently, that's how they've transitioned.
So even garmenters are doing this. Like Arvind is of course doing yarn, like denim fabric is doing fabric rather, and it
Yeah,
has also got retail, Van Heusen, etc. Does it
correct.
also do garment
Yeah,
manufacturing?
I think a lot of the smaller garmenters we know also who are like a 200, 250, 300 crore exporter, at some point they also think कि अपना private label बनाते हैं and they will launch a private label. And there's a saying in our industry that the private label is always the bigger son for the exporter who burns a lot of money and is more of
Acha.
just
Hmm.
is more of for show, right? And the manufacturing is the good son, the one who actually gets him money and cash flow. But I think it's a aspiration for a lot of exporters after a point that let us build our own brand also.
So, from what I understand, you're saying that stay away from the retail side of it, even though it seems lucrative. Like you said, they buy for $5, sell for $20.
Yeah,
So, why stay away? What are the uh,
I would not say stay
hidden
away.
cost
I
structures?
would say focus on anyone.
Hmm,
A retailer is a brand is a brand, right? So
hmm,
their mentality, their thought process, the way they operate is very different, right? They will not think ki how to make this in $5. They will think that what will Akshay and Subin like wearing, right? They will not think that where is this fabric going to come from. They will think, ki, Acha, what look and feel will the customer like, right? And they will have a lot more marketing expertise than any manufacturer ever can. So
hmm,
I think what we have seen in a lot of these cases, if you're building a brand, build a brand. Focus on building all of those capabilities, marketing, design, product innovation,
hmm,
right? And if you're building a manufacturing business, build a manufacturing business.
hmm,
Because our expertise is not to figure out what will a consumer like in the store. Our
hmm,
expertise is to figure out that how can we get this $5 product manufactured in the fastest possible way, most cost efficient way, and the best possible quality, right?
hmm,
अब
hmm,
वो उसको बेचना कैसा है is not what we have expertise in.
hmm.
So I think that's where a lot of people end up faltering. So it's better to just focus on one and build on that.
So, this thing of 3x, 4x markup is there even in the restaurant industry, and yet
Yeah,
restaurants see the highest failure rate.
yeah,
Similarly, from the outside, it looks like the apparel retail business is very profitable. Buy for 100 rupees, sell for 500 rupees.
yeah.
What are the hidden cost structures?
I think so.
And one sec, before you answer, a quick readjustment. Can you be in the center of the frame right now? Yeah, and you
Yes.
can tilt your laptop a bit. Just be in the center of it. Yeah. Okay. Hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um.
Yeah.
So I
Hidden
think
cost
yeah, just
structures. Yeah. Hmm.
as you said, right? The gross margin is very lucrative from the outside. That you think I will buy at 100 and sell at 500. But there are one is that can you at all sell or not? So that is a hidden cost structure, which is dead inventory. For most brands, dead inventory becomes a challenge.
And you can't return,
You can't
like if
return.
it
एक
doesn't
बार
sell.
एक बार आपने
Okay.
फैक्ट्री से खरीद लिया वो फिर आपका स्टॉक हो
Okay.
गया. If
Okay.
any of my buyers comes and tells me after 3 months ये बिका नहीं वापस लो, I will not come and I'll not take that
Yeah.
stock back, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
one
Okay.
is can you at all sell or not, that which is
Huh.
the most
Huh.
important part.
Huh.
Second thing is almost 30 to 40% of the stock goes on discount, right? So there your entire
Hmm.
markup actually gets squeezed because you're selling it for 50% discount, 60% discount,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
At say for not selling SKUs, you might have to sell at 70% discount also,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. End of season sales and all. Yeah.
End of season sale.
Hmm.
Third is the whole whether you look at offline retail or online retail, right? Offline mein massive amount of kharcha will go into stores, setting up stores, rental, all of that, which will take away another 10-20%. If you're
Hmm.
doing online retail and Amazon or Flipkart easily takes away 20-25%, right?
Hmm.
So that is where you get squeezed. And fourth cost structure is actually RTO, which is returns, right?
Hmm.
Returns in India are as high as 8 to 10% for most of the fashion brands. So if you break that down, you might think you're operating on a 200%, 300% markup, but ये सब करके if you can even make 10%, it's
Okay.
a
Okay.
pretty commendable feat, right?
Interesting. Interesting. How is Shane disrupting this market? And
So
what is Shane
Shein
for
is
people who don't know
actually
Shane? Hmm.
Shein of course is the world's fastest growing fast fashion house today, predominantly out of China. I think Shein is forcing a lot of the older global players to adapt. And to that extent, it has created a market for us also because that's sort of our USP as well, right? And a lot of the older guys now realize that one, they cannot be doing new collections every 3 months. They need to do a new collection every 2 weeks, right? Because a Shein is having new SKUs on their website every 2 weeks. Second, they can't operate on a 180-day sourcing pattern, right? If Shein is doing 30 days from runway to store, then the older guys need to at least do 60 days or 75 days to compete with them, right?
I think
Um,
Sheen does in weeks, right? Like in a week or
Weeks,
two.
exactly. Two to
Yeah,
four weeks is their average sort of
yeah.
SLA,
Mm,
right? And third, tied to that is having a lot more width in the stores, right? So you what we see now from a sourcing point of view also is customers may still be buying 100,000 pieces, but they don't want 5 SKUs 100,000 pieces. They want 25 SKUs 100,000 pieces because the stores need to have a lot more width, lot more variety
mm,
for a customer to sort of appeal to that and be drawn to that versus a Shein or any of
mm,
these newer
mm.
newer players.
Okay. I'll spend a little more time on the industry. Uh, the other disruptor in India specifically, I hear a lot about is Zudio, right? Have
Hmm.
you like why do people talk about Zudio so admiringly? What have they cracked? Zudio is a Tata subsidiary in fashion
Correct.
retail.
Correct. So I think what Zudio has cracked in India is taking branded retail to unbranded segments. A large part of Zudio's market was actually earlier unbranded, and they would be buying from local shops, local stores, right? But because of the rising sort of incomes in India, there was an aspiration कि हमें branded खरीदना है. And
Mm,
that aspiration was not getting met because all of the other stores like a Van Heusen, Peter England, Raymond were all in the 1499, 1299, 1599 kind of price points, right? Whereas Zudio comes in and says, hey, we'll give it at a 599, 699, 799 price point, which is more or less as much as what they were paying in the unbranded segment. And then
mm,
for that consumer, it become very interesting to say for the same price, अगर मुझे branded मिल सकता है, and of course the Tata brand also helps, right? Then why not? And that is what they've cracked very well with very good distribution. And now you have Reliance also following suit in that, trying to go after that same segment.
how did Zudio crack this market? Like, if they're selling similar product as a Van Heusen and all of that at much lower prices, how are they making money?
I think this the main part where Zudio's cracked it is one, we don't do a lot of domestic sourcing, but their supply chain is very, very tight from what we know. So they source at as low as possible
Mm,
costs. So they keep costs very, very tight. Second, they operate on lesser markups at a unit level, compensating for that at scale at a volume level. Right? So they will say,
okay.
okay, हम 250 का खरीद के 500 में बेच देते हैं. We will
Mm,
not try to sell it for 1,000. बट हम 500 में 10 लाख पीस बेचते हैं versus a
mm,
van user selling 1 lakh piece, right?
okay.
And that is
Okay.
that is their thought or strategy, which
Mm.
I think is playing out quite well for them.
Okay, very interesting. Okay, now before we've understood the space, we'll understand Groyo, but I want to understand Groyo through your journey of building Groyo.
Okay,
Take me a little bit through, like, what did you do for your education, and then the journey with the career journey which led up to Groyo.
sure. So, born and brought up in Bombay, spent most of my childhood, early days in Bombay. I went to Xavier's in Bombay. I studied economics there. Um, Very fondly think of my college days. Um, from campus, I joined Bain. So I was at the private equity team at Bain for a couple of years.
As in, you were looking
Towards
at deals, acquisitions, and all.
Correct. Acquisition is supporting clients up post acquisition as well.
Okay.
So towards the end of my stint at Bain, I got a very interesting opportunity to work with Oyo. This is when Oyo had acquired a large company in Europe and they were expanding into Europe. That I think for me was a bit of a turning point because I saw people who were exactly my age with exactly my kind of experience, right? Either managing full P&Ls or managing a full city or sort of managing a full vertical. And I had this मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ moment that I'm sitting here and making PPTs the whole day. And there's this guy who's my age who's suddenly head of Denmark for Oyo, right? And I was like, consulting to nahi karna hai. I can't see myself making PowerPoints and slides for the rest of my career.
So
Uh,
Oyo was your client at Bain.
Oyo was a client, yeah, correct.
Okay. Hmm, hmm,
So I left consulting quite early. I left
hmm.
within a couple of years. I then joined a startup called Zilingo, which was not known for the best reasons, but also in the fashion ecosystem. That was my first exposure to fashion apparel as a industry. right?
What was
Uh,
their model? What were they building? Were they on retail or on the garmenter,
I
or
think
like where were they
there
in
was
the supply
some
chain?
confusion about what they were trying to build.
Hmm.
Um, they were running a Udan kind of business in Southeast Asia, trying to do the Kirana store leg.
Okay,
They were
like
running a
mom and pop fashion shops. They were providing
correct,
them
correct,
inventory. Okay.
correct, exactly.
Hmm.
They were trying to do the manufacturing export part from South Asia, which is why the team I had joined got set up, right?
Okay.
But I think at the end of the day, boiled down to not a lot of focus on building a real business and no real unit economics to speak of, which
How much had they
led
raised?
to
I believe they were a unicorn before they went
correct.
bankrupt,
Yeah,
and
I
there were
think
some
they raised
charges of.
about three. They raised about $300 million in total.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So, like, what was your learning there at Zilingo? Were you able to see the problems as they were happening?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was there for a little less than 2 years, right? Um, Within the first year itself, I could see that this is not a real business, right? Because they were gross margin negative. So they were actually buying at 100 and selling at 90 rupees.
Okay.
एंड उतना धंधा तो मुझे चमकता था, हम लाइक ये करके क्या फायदा हो रहा है, राइट? लाइक हाउ
Okay.
आर यू एवर गोइंग टू मेक मनी आउट ऑफ दैट?
Huh.
I think at the time they were burning close to 80-90 crores a month,
Hmm.
right? So that too seemed like unsustainable. Like how how does this ever turn into a real business? um, yeah, I think we could, those inside
And
could see it coming for a while.
why were they gross margin negative? Was it like a desire to show numbers to investors that we are like, GMV, vanity numbers? Okay, this we are doing this GMV and all.
Absolutely. I think I was mentioning this to an investor who come to our office last week, right? So हमारे office में when an investor comes, nobody knows about it. It's like some guy sitting in the boardroom with me and just talking, right? But in our office, when a buyer comes, that's like a huge halla. Like we will do a rangoli for them. We'll put a board saying "Welcome Inditex team," right?
Okay.
The whole office will come out and take a photo with them,
Hmm.
right? At Zilingo, it was exactly the opposite. कि buyer आ रहा है उससे किसी
Okay.
को फर्क नहीं पड़ रहा है, right? But if an investor is coming, then everyone is there in the office, everyone is doing a
Hmm.
photo shoot with them. So I think the focus was not to build a dhanda. The
Hmm.
focus was more to get top line for the heck of top line,
Hmm.
even at the cost of horrible unit economics, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And yeah, I think that just anything that is not sustainable will eventually get undone. So that's
Hmm.
what ended up happening.
And that's why they were doing everything, like from the supplying to
Correct.
retailers to
Correct.
exporting, like whatever
I,
gave
I
them
remember I
GMV.
remember at the end they had also started a fintech vertical, and I was like, ये fintech
Uh,
में कहाँ से चले गए? This is not correlated to the business at all.
okay, 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 okay. Interesting, very interesting. Why are investors not able to see through this? Like, why didn't they
I,
put the brakes on
uh,
earlier after
I
300
don't know.
million
I don't know
burnt? Like,
then. I think at the time I was not very senior there to be privy to those conversations.
hmm,
But I think now it has changed a lot, right? Um, Maybe through them having their own learnings and them going deeper into the industry. Now most of the bigger investors I speak to at least are pretty well versed on what is the business, dhanda kya hota hai, what are steady state unit economics for some of the legacy players, right?
hmm,
So even if you're compromising on unit economics, kitna compromise ho raha hai, value add kya hai?
hmm,
So I think for good or bad, that full boom cycle has now created an ecosystem that is more aware, more sort of real, um, where EBITDA matters a lot more than GMV. So
hmm.
that transition has happened.
Okay, fascinating. Okay, so you were at Zilingo. You were doing the export business for Zilingo.
I was hired to set up the South Asia business, which is India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, se sort of exports and all of that, right? Zilingo is also where I overlap with Prateek, who's my co-founder, right? We joined at pretty much the same time, and we really hit it off and got a great bond. I think towards the end of my stint there, I felt that एक तो कि इनका कोई real focus है नहीं to build a to build a real business that will sustain. But कोई तो करेगा, right? I think that sort of that sort of insight was very clear that fast fashion is going through one of the largest disruptions from a supply chain point of view, right? There is a tangible amount of China minus one happening in the apparel sourcing supply chain. and buyers actively want a consolidated one stop shop solution where if you can tell them मैं आपके लिए design manage करूंगा, quality manage करूंगा, and I will be a multi category solution, it creates a lot of value. So I think I was very clear that whoever builds this over the next 10 years is going to build a very valuable business, right? And it's a very large opportunity. Plus, I think the co-founder aspect was a very large part of the decision as well, because I had seen in companies like Zilingo or Fashionza that both the founders were genderless, right? दोनों बेन से है, दोनों McKinsey से है. And I strongly felt that that is a very bad combination. That this is such a old school, technical, complicated industry. One of the founders needs to be like a hardcore industry veteran who is super technical, knows the full industry in and out. Um, and having Pratik with me also gave me a lot of confidence. So yeah, I think
What
that's
is
what.
Pratik's background?
Pratik is a hardcore industry veteran. He went to NIFT Calcutta. He started
Hmm.
there. He was then working with factories in Delhi. He ran his own factory for a couple of years.
Okay.
He was with Inditex for 8 years. So he was heading sourcing
Inditex
for
runs which brand? Zara.
Inditex runs Zara, Bershka, Massimo, Pull&Bear, and
Okay.
Lefties.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right. So he was heading their India sourcing for about 8 years. He was with JC Penney for 3 4 years. He was also with Asmara, which is a similar B2B business in Vietnam, for a couple of
Hmm.
years as well. So
Hmm.
pretty varied across textile.
Okay. 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 So the opportunity you saw was what? That more brands will shift their sourcing to India from China, and so there is a middleman opportunity here, somebody who will facilitate this.
I think to take that a little further, one that brands in the new fast fashion ecosystem, the supply chain for brands needs to look very different. So they cannot source on a 180-day tag, they need to source on a 70-60-day tag. They cannot source, they will now source 50 SKUs per order versus 5 SKUs per order, right?
Hmm.
And that
Hmm.
means a metric called MOQ, which is minimum order quantity,
Hmm.
that reduces from 10,000 pieces to 200 pieces, 300 pieces, 500 pieces,
Hmm.
right? Um, and at the same time, they would want one partner who can manage multiple of these SKUs in multiple categories, right?
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
is more from a sourcing pattern point of view. And of
Hmm.
course, the macro tailwinds ki China -1 ho raha hai, that production is going to move to not just India, but Bangladesh, Vietnam, all of the neighboring countries. And
Hmm.
anyone who can build a aggregated, efficient supply chain here,
Hmm.
who can tell a brand कि अगर you want to play in fast fashion, you want to become more like a Shein, right? We will manage the back end for you. You focus on the
Hmm.
front end, right?
Hmm.
That seemed like a very big, still seems like one of the biggest opportunities.
So your pitch to a brand is we are agile. If you give us a design, we will turn around and give it back to you in 30 to 60 days instead of 180 days. And our minimum order quantity is lower. You don't have to place, like, if they go to a Gokul Das, probably Gokul Das would ask for a 10,000 minimum order,
Correct.
whereas you
Yeah.
would do it for 1,000. Uh,
Yeah.
okay, got it, got it.
Absolutely. And
And
to
you
take that a
will
little further,
manage the
so
long tail.
design is
Hmm,
also fully in-house for us. So we have a in-house design team, a design tech tool. So it goes
hmm.
a little further to say that we will do the end-to-end design to delivery for you. We will curate the
But design
designs
is
for you.
table stakes, right? Like, I'm sure Gokul Das also has design and
Uh-huh.
all.
Everyone
Okay,
has design. All of
okay.
the good players will have a design capability.
Got it. Okay. And the other different how you're making this possible is by focusing on long tail, like
Correct.
because
Absolutely.
minimum order quantity. If you started aggregating the bigger players, the minimum order quantity thing wouldn't work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that was one of the very foundational sort of thoughts we had, that there are lakhs of SMEs across India, Bangladesh, Vietnam.
Hmm.
Most of these SMEs don't have enough business. The factory
Hmm.
is at 50% or 60% utilization. These SMEs are perfectly tailored for this kind of export demand pattern. Okay, they can do small MOQs, they can do fast stats. They're also more cost efficient than some of the very large guys,
Hmm.
but they will lack capabilities in terms of compliance, in terms of design, in terms of quality, right? So can Groyo become that building block in between that enables these SMEs to work with some of the largest brands globally? That was
Hmm.
the very foundational sort of thesis we started with.
Okay. Now, this space has competition, both legacy and new age. You
Correct.
mentioned fashions. That's like a new age competitor.
Yeah.
I think there's some Zoid, which is also, I think, a new age competitor. And then there are these legacy buying houses.
करेक्ट।
Not able to remember the name, like Li Feng or something.
लियन फंग है, करेक्ट।
Yeah, Li and
पीडीएस है
Feng.
इंडिया
Yes.
में।
Yeah. So, how do they stack up? The first question is, uh, aren't the legacy players able to handle this, or what is lacking in them? And then second is like with the new age players, what is the differentiation between the various new age players?
Yeah, I think on the legacy players, we haven't seen anyone very actively focusing on catering to this.
This
I
means
think there
what?
is
Like
the whole
lower
fast
MOQ
fashion, the whole
has
fast fashion supply chain, all of that, right?
okay.
Um,
Essentially, fast fashion supply chain means low MOQ and quick delivery.
Quick delivery, low MOQ, quick delivery,
Hmm.
and a lot of agility on the whole process, right?
Okay.
Um, so I think that on the legacy players, we've seen that usually how these businesses have been built is they have worked with 4 5 customers. So
Hmm.
even the largest exporter will work with the Gap, Nordstrom, JC Penney. For
Hmm.
those 4 5 customers, they know कि हमें 2 लाख 3 लाख 5 लाख पीस का ऑर्डर आता रहेगा, right?
Hmm.
And that they'll keep shipping. So
Hmm.
there is also, I think, a lack of incentive for them to say, okay, we'll pivot our full business and build this full thing because धंधा आ रहा है,
Hmm.
and they are content with that
Yeah,
balance,
low
right?
MOQ would probably break their processes. Like they wouldn't be
Would
able.
probably
I mean,
low
it would
MOQ हो
be
नहीं
loss
सकता है,
making for them. Huh.
correct?
Right.
If you if you
They're built for
if you
scale,
tell
basically.
they're built for scale. If you tell a Shahi or a Gokuldas कि आप 1,000 पीस पर स्टाइल बना दो और 40 दिन में बना दो, वो हो ही नहीं सकता है, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
In a lot of cases, they actually take that order and they subcontract it to a
Okay.
small vendor.
Hmm.
But now the brands are really clamping down on this because the brand runs a high risk in that kind of environment,
Hmm.
right? तो
Hmm.
वो भी थोड़ा कम हो रहा है.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think the legacy players, I wouldn't say it's that they're failing to adapt. It's just that there is enough on their plate for them to not very actively focus on this. But
Hmm.
I think one interesting trend we are seeing is that fast fashion is now not only for your fashion SKUs, right? Um, because very few people want to just buy a plain white T-shirt anymore, right? So most even your basic core SKUs are now coming with some element of design, some element of fashion, right? There'll be some
Hmm.
print, there'll be some embroidery, something on
Hmm.
it,
Hmm. Hmm.
and we think this is going to become more and more compounded, um, and
Hmm.
that's one reason we think this kind of a supply chain will become more valuable.
Okay. Okay. So that's about legacy players. What about like Fashion Zoid, these startups?
Ah, fashions, I don't know how existent they are. There have been a few smaller startups, right? But I think one, a lot of the focus has been on the domestic business for these companies, where they have
Okay.
focused on working with domestic brands and
Hmm.
becoming a sourcing partner for them.
Hmm.
We have fully stayed away from that and been 100% export, right? We don't think domestic business mein there is a lot of value you can add as an aggregator, right?
Okay.
um, Second, as of now, we have not seen anyone solving for the long tail of supply. A lot of them come with this crux that, okay, if you can aggregate 4 5 large manufacturers and 4 5 large brands, there
Hmm.
is scope to earn 8 10% in between, right?
Hmm.
But if you say that you will take a factory that has earlier worked for विशाल मेगा मार्ट, उसको आप पहले कंप्लाइंट बनाओगे, वहाँ पे प्रोसेस डालोगे, वहाँ पे डिज़ाइन इंप्लीमेंट करोगे, टेक इंप्लीमेंट करोगे, इट्स अ प्रिटी लॉन्ग ड्रॉन operationally heavy process, right?
Hmm.
So that, as of now, in India and Bangladesh, nobody has sort of been focusing on, where we have built our strength, and that's sort of our bread and butter.
Okay. Uh, so now, long tail essentially means that these are not professionally run, uh, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
these are like founder led.
Promoter
What
led, family run
you would say,
businesses.
like Lala company in a way.
Correct.
Uh,
Absolutely.
so how do you hedge your risks? These sound like risky suppliers to work with.
It is for sure. I think it
Hmm.
comes, as I said, right? So all of the capabilities apart from actually owning the manufacturing are fully in-house for us, right? Starting
Give me
from
examples.
compliance.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
compliance is an in-house team where we have a team that will check if the factory is export compliant, if he's paying wages on time, he's paying ESIC on time, fire safety compliances are there, because we know our customers are super diligent on these kind of things,
Hmm.
right? So we will first audit that factory if it is and we will check कि अगर कल ये Inditex audit करेगा, कहाँ fail होगा, कहाँ pass होगा, right?
Okay.
And then work with that factory to improve that before we
Hmm.
actually take that factory to or give an order to that factory.
Hmm.
Uh, Production and merchandising is fully in house for us, so we will not give an order to a factory and then leave it कि आप बनाओ, right? We will have a production team in every hub, so in Tirupur, in Delhi, in Dhaka, whose whose only SLA is to ensure that goods ship on time. So they will ensure कि अगर इस हफ्ते 100 पीस कट होना है तो 100 पीस कट हुआ है, right?
Hmm.
Third is quality. Quality is a fully in-house team for us, right? Where we will do a QC check at every stage of production because we know for our customers quality is sacrosanct.
Hmm.
Right? So all of these capabilities we have built in-house from this lens only, that these are not suppliers where they can handle the entire onus of production. These are
Hmm.
suppliers जहाँ आपको efficiency मिलेगा, agility मिलेगा,
Hmm.
but the heavy lifting of that full process needs to be done by us, and that
Hmm.
is our role also, right? That we tell our customers that we will give you the same level of design, service, and quality which you would get
Hmm.
from a Shahi or Gokuldas. तो
Hmm.
आपको कुछ compromise नहीं करना होगा, but
Hmm.
we will give you the agility of and flexibility of a SME-led supply chain.
Hmm. What was harder for you when you first started off, building supply or getting orders?
I think building supply, and not just building supply because there's a lot of supply in the market. Building this full execution framework, that was harder, right? Because with there is enough demand in the market today. Um, we even the initial team at our end was always a team of operating experts from the industry. So the lack of buyers or lack of orders was never much of a problem. But
Like
ensuring
Pratik
that
had connects to
correct,
get
correct,
orders and okay.
absolutely,
Hmm.
absolutely. Like
Hmm.
to give you an example, even today we don't do Zara, right? And Pratik knows the Zara team very well, and we are very clear that we are not fully ready for Zara yet. We would first want to have our team, our system, our factories fully ready, and only then go to the customer, right? So that part is harder.
Why are you not ready for Zara? Is it the scale or is it the compliance? Is it the quality? What worries you?
It is the quality and process, right? So Zara
Hmm.
is even more rigorous on timelines, even more rigorous on sort of great quality but with great timelines, right?
Okay.
And the risk
Okay.
with the risk with any of these customers is getting in is still possible, but if you get in and fail to deliver, then you risk losing
You're
them forever,
yeah,
right?
you're out for
Uh,
life. Okay.
you're out for life. And
Hmm.
this journey we saw with Zilingo Fashions as well, that
Hmm.
they did spend a lot, they burnt a lot and got great customers, but they were not able to retain them and continue doing business with them. So we
Hmm.
would much rather add 4 5 customers a year only, but know that with these 4 5 customers we can keep going deeper, we can keep delivering well,
Hmm.
and that they will start relying on us more. Versus add 30 customers and not be able to cater to them.
Hmm. So Pratik has experience of working with Zara kind of buyers. Like he
Correct.
understands exactly what their requirements are, and therefore, uh, like from day one, when you're building your supply, you're not learning on the job. Like you're
Correct.
not
Absolutely.
screwing up to learn कि अच्छा ये भी जरूरी होता है. Okay.
Absolutely.
Interesting. So, like, tell me the journey of building supply. Like, where did you start with? Till what was the stage where you felt that yes, okay, we have reached like a minimum viable supply chain. I can't say MVP, but let me say MVSC.
We started with NCR. I think NCR
Hmm,
was our first hub.
hmm.
NCR today is our biggest hub as well, right?
Okay.
Um, Initially, I think
NCR, I
we
guess
started
Noida
with
is where most of this happens, right?
Noida bhi hai, Gurgaon bhi hai. Gurgaon mein you have the whole Khansa belt, which is
Okay.
the Manesar belt, which is also big.
Okay.
Udyog Vihar also has quite a few garmenters, right?
Okay.
Um, we started with NCR. We started predominantly with women's, so women's was our first category,
Hmm.
and we started with about 7 to 8 factories in NCR and one customer, which was a
What was
British
the
customer.
ask from the factory? Like, did they have to invest in better equipment, all of that, or what was it like?
So even today and how we have structured that model is we don't ask the factory to do a lot of capex, right?
Hmm.
So if we come across a factory where significant capex is required, that factory will perhaps not be the right fit for Groyo, right? So we will look for factories which have decent capex, but there is some element of sort of आपको फायर सेफ्टी प्रोसेस इंप्लीमेंट करने हैं, लाइटिंग इंप्रूव करना है फैक्ट्री फ्लोर में, those things need to be done
Hmm.
versus that you need to fully restructure your full floor and machinery and all of that. So
Hmm.
that model has stayed true over the years also. So
Okay.
the initial, I think, pushback from factories was that what am I going to get out of it? How much business can you tangibly give me? You guys have just started. How do I know I'm going to get regular business? Now that has eased out because it's been like 4.5 years. People know that we work with these 40, 50 great clients. We can regularly give business to them. But when we
Hmm.
started, that was tougher.
Hmm. Why would I mean, you're giving them business, right? So why so many questions?
I think because it's
Because you're
an
asking them to first fix those things before
fix
giving the
those things.
business.
It's an element of time and bandwidth they're putting as well. Plus,
Hmm.
when you've just started, they don't know if you can continuously give them business. A lot they
Hmm.
might think कि अच्छा आप एक order तो दे रहे हो, but what is
Hmm.
the surety कि इसके बाद मुझे और एक repeat order आएगा and I'll get
Hmm.
a good volume from you, right?
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
Which is true for any new business that starts.
Hmm. Okay. So, how much of your essentially, from what I understand, then a lot of what you do is removing risk from the supply chain side. Like you
Correct,
already have these suppliers who can give you the product, but the problem is the risk. The
correct,
whether the risk of not meeting timeline, risk of not meeting quality, risk of not meeting
correct.
design. Um,
Correct. Because with
so,
the customer, we are the principal, right?
hmm,
We are not a platform. For the
hmm,
customer, Groyo is the vendor. We are the ones
hmm,
who they are giving that order to, who's going to supply to them. So the biggest
okay,
risk we run is if there is a goof up on the process, then it
hmm,
is our credibility and our reputation on the line with that customer, and that customer is not going to come back to us, right?
right.
So it is very critical that we focus on the execution part of it, ensure that all of, as you said, all of those risks are removed, so that
Hmm,
we can sort of keep getting repeat business from that customer.
hmm. How much of the risk removal is through people, and how much is through technology?
I think about 60 to 70% is through people, and
Hmm,
this is a people led business, right?
hmm,
30% is through tech, which we have built over the last 3 4 years. There also our thought from day zero has always been that it is supply side tech that is actually going to help, right? Demand side tech is good to have, that you can show the customer देखो आपके लिए मैंने ये dashboard बनाया है, design tool बनाया, but at the end of the day the customer wants good product, good price, good quality, right?
hmm,
Supply side tech is where it can actually create leverage, that getting real time QC insights कि production में क्या quality issue आ रहा है, getting real time production insights that अगर इस दिन में 100 पीस कटना था एंड इस दिन के एंड में सिर्फ 70 पीस कट हुआ है, right? Then that is going to create an issue on the whole timeline of the production process,
hmm,
which without tech you will get to know at the end of a week or maybe end of 10 days when you do
hmm,
a production run through. Then you will see okay, no, these two SKUs are running delayed, right? Versus if tech can give you that real time insight, you can solve for that day itself, that
hmm,
these two SKUs are running delayed, we need to ramp up production here. So that's where
hmm.
we've put a lot of bandwidth and investment on the tech side.
Uh, how do you get data? Because I guess all of this depends on data in, right? If there is good
Correct.
data coming in, only then will tech work.
Yeah.
So how is the data coming in? Like, how do you know that
So
100 pieces were cut today?
So I think there our approach has been that two aspects. One is digitize the existing factory production flow, right? Don't introduce more work for that factory, right? So typically before we came in, a factory had a system where the floor manager would make a time and action plan, right? Key order here. These are the 10 SKUs. This is the time and action plan for the whole week, right? We enable him to do the same thing on the Groyo app, right? After that, he would give sort of a note or like to every worker saying आपका दिन का ये target है, आपको 100 पीस कट करना है, which the worker would update at the end of the day and give back to him, right? Again, same part is digitized on the Groyo app, and we have kept the tech fully vernacular, very easy to use, right? All of that has helped. It's not seamless to say that it's not that we onboard a factory today and tomorrow it becomes tech enabled. There is hand holding required, there is training required, but this just makes it sort of easier, and I think that is what has enabled us to implement this. We have now also put in aspects of barcoding, etc., right? So after a certain part of the production, all the units start getting barcoded, so that we then use to leverage and capture data from there.
Okay, interesting. Uh, but the barcode reading is through like some sort of a camera automatically reading it, or there's like a human who's scanning.
No, there's a human who's scanning. There's a human
Okay,
who's scanning.
okay,
Yeah,
okay. Uh, this tech is available to the factory irrespective of whose order they are processing, or there's only when they are
correct.
working on Groyo orders.
No, so the factory will use it for, if they are using it, they will use it for the entire production floor, right?
Hmm,
And it could be कि उस factory का सिर्फ 30% capacity is coming from Groyo, 70% is coming from other buyers, other customers they
hmm,
work with.
hmm, hmm,
So
hmm,
we usually don't come across a scenario where a factory owner only uses it for our
hmm.
production. अगर यूज करेगा तो पूरे में यूज करेगा, नहीं यूज करेगा तो
Okay,
बिल्कुल नहीं यूज करेगा.
So
Um,
this is like a free SaaS offering to people whom you're on board, to factory owners that you're onboarding,
Correct.
that we will
Absolutely.
digitize your factory free of cost.
Correct.
Do
Absolutely.
you think this is monetizable? Like, not in India,
So
no? It's unlikely.
we do monetize a part of it, right?
Hmm.
And how we have structured that is, so this offering is bundled with our compliance consulting offering, right? Where we say that we will help your factory become export compliant, improve your processes. We do things like skilling on the factory floor, where we actually skill the workers,
Hmm.
right? That offering is monetized to large factories, right? So we work with large exporters as well, where we charge them about 30, 40, 50 lakh rupees a year for
Hmm.
this entire process, right? And that was our thought behind that we didn't, this is almost a 40-50 member team for us, right? So we didn't want this to become a cost center. We were clear
Hmm.
कि at least इतना इतना कमाई होना चाहिए कि वो टीम का खर्चा निकल जाना चाहिए, so that it is not sort of dragging down our margins. That's how we have
Very interesting.
that's how
Very
we structured
interesting.
it.
So your compliance team is doing this free for onboarded factories and is charging factories which are
Larger
not
factories.
onboarded. Okay,
Correct.
larger
Correct.
factories. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay, okay. Interesting. What is the contribution of this consulting revenue to your overall revenue?
About 3-4%.
Okay. Hmm. So
Yeah.
it's just a way to uh, like be
Not
more
make it a cost
capital
center.
efficient.
Yes,
Uh,
correct. Absolutely.
right, not make it a cost center. Okay,
Yeah.
very interesting. Which also would, I'm guessing, help in retention. I think when people feel like they're owning a P&L, the
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
retention would be much stronger. Yeah, very
Yeah.
interesting. Okay. Okay, got it. So you built out this compliance function, which is one way in which you de-risk factories, and then you have the quality team, which is going and doing quality controls.
Correct.
So they would
We
also.
have the production merchandising team,
Hmm.
which is also completely on the supply side.
So what does this team do? Production merchandising.
So production merchandising is basically after an order comes in, they become an owner of that order, right? So one merchandiser, let's say there is a PO from lefties, right? So one merchandiser is now the owner of that PO. They need to ensure that the entire time and action plan that has been committed to the buyer is followed, right? In a nutshell, and they
Hmm.
need to unbottleneck whatever is stopping that from happening, right?
Hmm.
ट्रिम नहीं आ रहा है, बटन नहीं आ रहा है, फैब्रिक डिले हो गया है, प्रोडक्शन फ्लोर में प्रोडक्शन इज नॉट हैपनिंग ऑन टाइम, just solve all of that. That is their core SLA.
Okay. What's the role of a merchandiser typically?
Role of a merchandiser is exactly this, right? So if you're a merchandiser, you'll get tagged to any one PO or, of course, at a time, multiple POs. But the
Hmm.
role is to firstly find the right factory for that PO, right?
Okay.
Uh, the merchandiser does a lot of the costing part of it, right? Where
Okay.
with the buyer, we are typically a price taker, right? Because you can't negotiate with the likes of a Mango or a Zara. They will say,
Hmm.
"Hamara $3 target price hai. If you want it, take it at $3," right? With the factory, we are a price giver, right? So
Hmm.
there is a lot of negotiation that goes on, right?
Hmm.
So that part the merchandiser will frontline, right?
Hmm.
Breaking down the cost with the factory owner, what are the different cost aspects, how can we minimize what, right? After the order has been closed, they will ensure that the entire process of the order is on track, right from the time kapra time pe aa raha hai, button time pe aa raha hai, all of that regular. So they will coordinate with the QC team to say regular QC audit karwao, make
Hmm.
sure there's a QC check happening every week, make sure whatever QC issues are coming in that are being resolved on the factory floor, right?
Hmm.
So just end to end managing the life cycle of that order and ensuring it is shipped on time as per the quality that the customer has asked for. That is what a merchandiser does.
Okay. Uh, uh, do they also like break down the design into individual tasks?
Not tasks, but they will break down the design to enable the factory owner to understand that better, right?
Okay.
That अगर ये look and feel है तो ऐसा कपड़ा लगेगा.
Hmm.
If it is a particular kind of pattern तो इसका printing करना होगा. तो ये printing,
Okay.
like let's say you don't have that printing facility in house, so we have to send it outside for printing. All of
Okay.
those aspects the merchandiser will do.
Oh, okay. 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 Got it. Got it. Okay. Uh, and you also have a design team. So design team would like help the client with design options and ideas and
Correct.
so on.
Correct.
Okay.
Design team is basically where our customers give us a mood board or a trend board at the start of the season, right? But then it is up to us to interpret that mood board and trend board and come up with actual designs and collections. And when we go to a customer meeting, we travel with like physical suitcases. We'll go with two, three suitcases. There'll be
Ah,
a long table like this. We'll
okay.
lay out all of the products on the table, and
Mm,
then and that design needs to talk to the customer. They need to
mm,
understand and feel that okay, this partner really understands my language,
mm,
understands what I'm looking for. If
mm,
that design is not strong, then वो customer आपको order देगा ही नहीं. It
mm,
The conversation will drop off at that point, right?
mm,
So design is where it all starts. If that design is strong and they really feel that okay, Groyo understands my language, understands what my consumers are looking for, that's when
mm,
it will move into more of a commercial stage of the order.
mm. And how did you build this design team? This doesn't sound like an easy team to build. A team which would understand the design language of each brand and be able to create winning designs.
So I think a lot of them we have poached from large legacy export houses, right? And again, I think our apart from me and our finance team, our org has zero generalists, right? So
Mm, okay.
everyone in every team are people who come with a lot of experience doing that. Uh,
Mm,
so we poached people from sort of large legacy export houses who have been working with these kind of customers who understand their language, and that's how we built it.
interesting. So, this is a very different kind of a startup model. I talk to a lot of founders uh, who look for hustle and the soft skills more than the
Yeah,
experience, whereas in your case the hard skills, the relevant experience is what you are primarily looking for.
correct, correct.
Is that the nature of the industry, or like
I think it is because again we saw some of our peers in the in the new age ecosystem who tried to do it the other way, right? I remember I'd gone for this buyer meeting in Dubai with Pratik, and they had met. I won't name the startup. They had met one of our peers recently, and they were like two guys from McKinsey had come who gave us like a PPT presentation on how they're going to use tech to digitize the whole supply chain. ना
hmm,
हमें प्रोडक्ट दिखाया, ना हमें कुछ डिजाइन दिखाया,
uh,
ना कुछ प्रोडक्शन का बात किया.
hmm,
So I think that the nuance of this industry is a little different.
hmm,
Where I have now been in this industry for effectively 7 years, right?
hmm,
But even I am not technical enough to be able to say I can fully read a design or do an open costing.
hmm.
Whereas if you talk to people like Pratik, he'll just look at what you're wearing and tell you कि इसमें क्या गया है, what is the
Yeah,
price of every component, इसका open cost
okay.
क्या है, ये कितने में बन सकता है, right?
Okay, fascinating.
So I think that's what makes it very difficult to say that you'll hire a generalist from a consulting firm and make them do this.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. Fascinating. Very interesting. You kind of have like a anti-scale philosophy.
Hmm.
You're working with smaller sized units, and you prefer them to be smaller sized because
Hmm.
that is your sweet spot to work with smaller
Correct.
sized units. Whereas, like say, China has very clearly a scale philosophy. I doubt
Hmm.
the kind of small scale enterprise that India has would survive in China today. Most of
Hmm.
them
Hmm.
would have gone extinct by now. Um, do you think that is inevitable, that only a few scaled up players will survive, or do you think this long tail will survive of thousands of small manufacturers?
I think the long tail is where. So if you look at overall public data over the last 4 5 years, the contribution of MSMEs to exports has been steadily rising, which 10 years back was at 25 odd percent, has now has gone to 35 40%, right? So it's there are very evident signs that the long tail is now actually capturing more of that market share because of the inherent advantages they bring in, and at least for the next 10 years, I think that is where more of the growth is going to happen. Um, it's not that the very large exporters will sort of fade away overnight, right? Um, but it's also not that those businesses will grow phenomenally from here.
Why? I mean, China is proof that scale works.
So China is actually very different from even the scale in China is very different, right?
Hmm,
Um, they have used tech and process in a way where even larger factories are able to do very small batch sizes, very fast turnaround times, very cost effective production, right?
hmm.
I don't think India, Bangladesh has that level of infrastructure to sort of mirror that, right? Which
Okay.
is why China has been where it is in
Hmm,
the global fashion supply chain. Um,
hmm, hmm.
yeah.
But your bet is that the long tail will thrive. That it will not be like few scaled up players and
Our
dominating.
bet is the long tail has inherent advantages to thrive in today's fashion sourcing ecosystem. They lack the capabilities to make them thrive, which players like us need to bring to them. But yeah, fundamentally, if you look at what global fashion is seeking today, in terms of agility, in terms of speed, in terms of flexibility, that is best suited for the long tail.
Mm. Plus, I'm assuming the cost would be lower or not really.
Costs also
Because
low,
even
definitely.
with scale, also your costs come down, right? Like
Not
it's only
in
when
not
you're
in not
somewhere in
in
the middle that your costs are wonky. But
So that's an interesting point actually. This is something a lot of folks end up asking me that with scale costs will come down. Now, if you
mm,
think of the manufacturing process, with scale cost comes down when you have a line assembly process. जब आपका एक SKU बार बार बन रहा है, right? And you say कि okay,
mm,
if I'm making one phone versus if I'm making 1 million phones, my 1 million phone का cost will come down.
mm,
Now, if you break that down in fashion, no SKU is the same. Repeat orders,
mm,
maybe SKU is not the same, right?
mm,
Every order will have 15, 20 SKUs. So
mm.
with scale, actually costs don't come down because it is not that you're making the same thing
Uh,
again and again.
okay.
You're
Thank
you're
you so much
making
for your
different
time, Subin.
SKUs with different processes, with different button, kapra, everything, right?
Mm, mm, mm,
So
mm,
it is actually the lower guy who has a cost advantage. The
mm,
bigger guy will actually do the same thing but with a higher cost structure because
mm.
uske processes बहुत ज़्यादा रहेंगे. He will have 10 floor managers, 10 QC managers,
Yeah.
all of that,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
right?
Yep. Mm.
So it's a
So,
nuance to fashion.
as long as it is labor intensive, the
Correct,
anti-scale thesis will work. But if you
correct,
started replacing labor with robots, then
correct.
probably
Yeah. I
then
mean,
probably
what
scale would win.
the efficiency of scale argument you can see very well on the fabric side, where it's very different,
Mm,
right? Because
mm,
fabric may number of SKUs are lesser, it is more capital
right.
heavy, right? Less labor
Mm,
intensive. So there
mm,
you see a large mill actually commanding better unit economics and doing better than a much smaller mill, right?
mm,
But when it comes to apparel, that full
mm,
dynamics change.
okay. Tell me about your revenue and funding journey. Like year one, when you started, what kind of revenue were at? When did you raise your first round? How has that been?
So year one, I think we were at 25 crores in revenue. So
Hmm.
relatively small. Um, we raised our first round very early. I think we launched in July. We had raised our first round in September. That
This
was
we're
led
talking
by
of 21.
21,
Hmm.
right? That was led by Alpha Wave. They were our earliest backer. I think when they came in, we were doing 25 lakh rupees of revenue. So it was a very early bet.
Wow.
Um,
And
yeah, I
they
think and
invested a decent amount, right? That round was, I think, 4.5 million.
that round was about 4.5 million. Correct. They led
Okay.
the round. They did most of the round.
How did you
I
raise
think
such a large round
uh,
at the seed
how
stage?
is
Like
how
seed stage, such a
is
large round. You're. It's
correct.
not like you are like serial entrepreneurs or something. It's very
Yeah,
rare for first-time entrepreneurs to have such a large round at seed stage.
I think so. Two, three aspects worked in our favor then. One, the whole clarity we had on how to build, what to build, exactly what to do, right? Which is, I think, what not a lot of the folks we were speaking to at the time respected.
Hmm.
The fact that as founders, we brought in very complementary skills, where Pratik is very strong on the technical industry side. I'm very
Hmm.
strong on finance commercial side. I think
Hmm.
that also helped. But I think we were very clear on month on quarter exactly क्या execute करेंगे. It's
Hmm.
not that
Hmm.
there was any figuring out for us to do, right?
Hmm.
We were
Hmm.
clear
Hmm.
कि पहले यूके में जाएंगे, ये 5 customers है, ये 5 customers को लाने के लिए we need to even to the extent we had even mapped out कि we have to hire this person, we know the person, we know what his
Okay.
comp is going to be, right?
Okay. Hmm.
All we need is the capital to give him an offer letter.
Hmm.
So
Hmm. Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think
Hmm.
that clarity helped
Hmm.
a lot.
Hmm. Plus large TAM.
Large time, very large time, of course. I think
Hmm.
India, if you look at only India, Bangladesh, textile apparel export is almost $80 billion ka market.
Hmm.
If you add Vietnam, it's a 120, $130 billion market.
Hmm.
So one of the largest
And
markets in the world.
and you said aggregators like you would get like 8-10% margin.
So we actually command a lot more than 8-10%. We today earn about close to 28 to 30% at
Wow.
a unit level, at a take rate level.
And that's because you're working with long tail, so you have more pricing power.
Absolutely. Working with long tail, and that also, it's not that there's no benefit to the factory there, right? Because how
Hmm.
a lot of our factories think of it is if they were doing that same dress for Vishal Megamart, they would get 150 rupees or 140 rupees.
Hmm.
Whereas
Hmm.
if Groyo is giving them that order and really squeezing, and
Hmm.
giving $2.50. So $2.50 is still better than what Vishal Mega Mart is going to give, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
there
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
benefit for both parties.
Hmm. Okay. 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 Interesting. Okay. So yeah, first year was 25 crore. Then.
First was 25 crores. We raised from Alpha Wave in about September
Hmm.
of that year.
Hmm.
We also brought in a few strategic angels in that round. Um, our next round happened next year, which was September October of 2022. That was led by Tiger. Uh,
And this
that
was a
is
big round, right? 28
This was a
million.
big round. Yeah, this was
Hmm.
a 28 million equity round. Um, yeah, that was end
On
of
this was on the
22.
back of what? Like GM, your GMV had scaled up, your revenue had scaled up. What like?
I think GMV plus, I think one part was whatever we had projected and set out to do at a seed stage, we had been able to execute very well.
Okay.
We had also gone global very fast, right? So by end of 21, we were in Bangladesh. We set up our entity in Bangladesh.
Okay.
By end of 21 itself, we were exporting to UK, we were exporting to Europe. In 22, we had started exporting to US. So we had
Hmm.
clients in the US.
Okay.
We set up our GCC office in sort of mid of 22 as well, right?
Hmm.
So in a year and a half, we were present in like 7, 8 countries, had a
Hmm.
pretty global operations. And I think
Hmm.
the bigger picture they saw then is the foundation has been laid out.
Hmm.
With the right kind of capital, this can now become a very large global business. So I
Hmm.
think that helped. And of course, those times it was a very different market. So
Okay. Okay. Uh, what was your revenue that year? 22.
at the time, I think we were doing about 100 crore run rate,
Okay.
100 odd crore
Hmm.
run rate.
So did you really need $28 million, or
No, not at
you
all.
took it because it was available?
We took it because it was available. I think when we had started raising, we had started that process raising $10 million,
Okay.
and that was the thought. Ki $10 million तो बहुत पैसा है. That's enough for us to build
Hmm.
out over 2 years.
Hmm. Hmm.
But yeah, it was available. Tiger was one of when I started the company, they were one of our sort of most aspired backers, right? Ki,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
great partners to have. So yeah,
Hmm.
that's how that happened.
Did you lose frugality because of raising so much money? Lose fiscal discipline? Start chasing revenue instead of EBITDA? That what you just said, like
Hmm.
chasing GMV instead of EBITDA.
I think for a very brief period of 6 to 7 months we did, right?
Hmm.
Um, because that there was some hype in the market then. Um, but I think we
What
course
does that
correct.
mean? Like, what does it translate into? Like losing fiscal discipline? Like you will take orders at a lower price than you're
We would take
comfortable with.
orders at a lower margin.
Okay.
At the time, we were operating at I think a 8 to 10% unit level margin, which has
Hmm.
today
Hmm.
become 30%, right?
Hmm.
Uh, Broadly, that I think, thankfully for us though, that was for a very brief period. I think two parts really worked in our favor. I think one, the experience Pratik had helped a lot because he could very easily tell that this is not sustainable. That in a year all of this hype is going to fade away, and what will remain is it's a long if it is a long lasting profitable business, right?
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I think I inherently look to him for that expertise. So we put the brakes very early. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I think that helped.
Hmm. Good stuff. You still have that money in the bank?
Yeah, I think where we are today, the business is PAT positive. We
Hmm.
are cash flow positive,
Hmm.
um, and we have more than 50% of what we have raised left with
Wow.
us. So
Amazing.
in that from
Amazing.
that lens, raising a very large round then made sense. It made sense now because fundraising is not something that is something you need to keep doing, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
That distraction of having to constantly
having to
raise
raise
is not like.
consistently both नहीं है. Correct.
Hmm. 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 Okay. 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 Very interesting. So, how did you, boost the margin from 10% to 30%?
One part I think was just discipline that
Hmm.
we set internal guardrails ki anything below 20% हम लेंगे नहीं, right? And if it's an order below 20%, then there needs to be a very strong rationale of why are we taking it.
Hmm.
Very strategic customer, whatever. That I think it's more of a org discipline also. The moment you put
Hmm.
that, then the whole org starts solving for that. That okay,
Hmm.
find vendors who can give better pricing, negotiate
Hmm.
better with vendors, right?
Hmm.
So discipline and culture was a large part of it.
Hmm.
We went from a culture saying okay, अगर 10 करोड़ का ऑर्डर है 5 टका पे कर लो, to saying कि
Hmm.
अगर 10 करोड़ का ऑर्डर है और 20 टका नहीं बन रहा है तो हम नहीं करेंगे, it's okay, let's
Hmm.
leave
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
aside,
Hmm.
right? So that was a large part.
Hmm.
Design played a large part. I think
Hmm.
setting up the whole design capability actually meant that we were reverse engineering the cost from day zero, because we are curating the whole design.
So
We know
you can
what is the
predict the
fabric
margin
cost,
then.
we know what is the fabric cost, what is the button cost, what is the trim cost, right?
Hmm.
So we will
Hmm.
now go to a factory and say हमें पता है इसका पूरा खर्चा इतना है, we
Hmm.
will give you 50 rupees per garment for just manufacturing it, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that
Hmm. Hmm.
made our sort of cost structures more efficient.
Hmm.
Third, I think we transitioned to becoming a 100% export oriented business, right?
Hmm.
So which is why I was saying earlier that a lot of the startups I see going after the domestic business, seeing कि यहाँ पे scale है, which
Hmm.
is true. Domestic may scale hai, but making good unit economics as an aggregator in domestic is next to impossible, right?
Hmm.
And when we took that call to say, okay, now we'll do only exports and only work with top-notch customers, that meant that the arbitrage was a lot more for us, because we
Hmm.
were sourcing at 200 rupees and exporting at say $4, $5, $6, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that translated to our overall unit economics.
Okay. Your buyers, like the brands that you're selling to, they are aware that you are an asset light, like you're an
Uh-huh.
aggregator.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
absolutely.
Hmm. You've done some M&A also, right?
Not a lot. We've
Hmm.
done one.
Hmm.
That's been about it.
What did you acquire?
So I think from the initial days of 2024, um, we really wanted to strengthen our business in the US. So UK and Europe, we had always been very, very strong, right? Because initial founding team were all ex Inditex, ex Next kind of team members. So we're able to get great clients in UK and Europe.
Hmm.
US, we were always slightly weak, right? And that's where we got a great partner in the US who had been working with us for 2 3 years as well, and they source for Ross, Burlington, Macy's, some of the largest brands in the US. So it made sense to partner with them.
So this was a buying house in the US.
This was a sourcing house, yes, correct.
Sourcing. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the advantage of acquiring them is a shortcut to customers because they already have a roster of clients. So you instantly get into those clients and
Roster of
you're able
clients,
to.
team
Hmm.
on the ground,
Hmm.
um,
Okay.
all of those aspects.
Oh, okay. So, how did you like? Were you able to retain the founders after you acquired, or
Yeah,
like?
yeah. They're still very much actively sort of managing that full vertical.
Hmm. How like how did you manage to get them to stick around?
So I think it was not we've never structured it like a full on acquisition per se, right? And
Okay.
we've always been believers in this, that there's a very people driven industry, right? And there is a lot of value to the sort of credibility and reputation that the individual brings in. So even
Hmm.
internally, how we are structured now is we are structured in multiple verticals, right? So we will get in, let's say, a senior person like Pratik who has 20 years of experience in the French market, right? And we will let him run that as a full independent vertical. That you manage your customers, you manage your suppliers, you have your own team. We will provide support wherever required. Our design team will support you, our tech team will support you. But आप अपना vertical P&L खुद चलाओ, right? And that has allowed us to scale faster, because when it's multiple independent verticals running, it's a
Hmm.
lot easier to scale that business, right? And that strategy has worked well for us over the last 2 3 years.
Very interesting. Huh? Another example of the anti-scale theory,
Yeah.
because I would imagine the temptation would be to have supply chain centralized. Like typically that's what happens, right? Like sales, you have like local presence, you need relationships. So each country will have like some sales head who's managing the customer relationship. He gets the orders, and then delivery of orders goes to a central team, and that team, because the logic is that the central team knows more suppliers and has more information about who's the best person to do it rather than having these smaller units. But why did you opt for this, and why do you feel this worked better
So
having
I think this
standalone?
this we saw as a comparison to some of the newish companies versus some of the legacy companies have operated, right? See, fundamentally we are an aggregator. We are not a manufacturer ourselves.
Hmm.
So that model works better if you have your own manufacturing unit. कि आपको पता है आपका इतना capacity है, and you have a
Hmm.
marketing head in Italy or a marketing head in Spain who's getting the customers, right?
Hmm.
The moment you set up a sales and supply structure in our kind of a business, the
Hmm.
sales guy will always say कि supply खराब है, कि फैक्ट्री अच्छा नहीं है, कॉस्ट अच्छा नहीं आ रहा है, डिजाइन
Hmm.
अच्छा नहीं है, एंड द
Hmm.
सप्लाई गाय विल ऑलवेज से सेल्स खराब है,
Hmm.
बायर
Hmm.
अच्छा नहीं है,
Hmm.
प्राइस अच्छा
Hmm.
नहीं मिल रहा है, etc.
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
So you're actually
Okay.
an aggregator who set up two intermediaries within your own company,
Hmm.
and then it's very difficult to sort of run that business efficiently.
Hmm.
Versus creating a model where you have one sort of head or one
Hmm.
team, and
Hmm.
the end to end order has to be managed by them. कि ऑर्डर
Hmm.
आपको लाना है, फैक्ट्री आपको ढूंढना है, प्रोडक्शन आपको
Hmm.
निकालना है,
Hmm.
you need to ensure quality is as per the customer, and run
Hmm.
that whole process, right?
Hmm.
That creates a lot more accountability, it
Hmm.
creates a lot more efficiency,
Hmm.
and it helps us ensure that the business is running efficiently.
And is there compensation linked to their PNL or partly
There is,
linked?
of course. Yeah, there is.
Okay. So there
every
is full
every
skin in
every
the game
vertical
for
will
them.
have, when we start the year, we'll do a financial planning with every vertical ki, which we just recently did, right? Ki
Hmm.
FY26 आप इतना देख रहे हो,
Hmm.
quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, quarter four.
Hmm.
Then me and Pratik will spend more time with them. Ki har quarter are you meeting your goals?
Hmm.
How can we sort of expand this business now, right? That
Hmm.
if you're, let's say, with a particular customer only doing kids wear, how can we get
Hmm.
into women's wear? How can we get into men's wear?
Hmm.
There, do we need better design? Do we need better factories? What do we need?
Hmm. How do you pass on? There is that organizational knowledge that someone who's like, if you had a dedicated supply team, they would have that knowledge. Okay, these suppliers do this product best.
Hmm.
That kind of knowledge. How do you pass it on to so many individual units then? Like you have all of these country specific teams. They would not be. How do you ensure they learn from each other? Uh, you know.
So I think one is there are some aspects which are centralized. Like design is largely centralized. We have a
Hmm.
centralized design head who works with all of the verticals, right? Quality is centralized. We have a centralized QC head who works with all of the verticals,
Hmm.
right? There would be individuals who would have a dual reporting, who would sort of also work closely with the vertical head, also work close and also report to the QC head, but wo
Hmm.
team centralized hai.
Hmm.
That to a certain extent helps us sort of translate this. Um, Second, we also spend a lot of bandwidth in, and this is more at a senior level, into identifying how can we cross sell more efficiently, right? So every 2 3 weeks, every month, all of us will sit down together. कि, okay, this individual is working with these 5 customers, right? इसके साथ हम क्या कर रहे हैं? How can we get into more categories? Maybe there is some designs which another team is doing that can be leveraged here, right? And
Ah, okay.
we very
Okay.
actively think of our business where we are today
Hmm.
as one. Today we are working with about 50 customers, and these are 50 of the
Hmm.
largest in the world, right?
Hmm.
I don't think we would have even 1 to 2% share of wallet with most of these customers, right?
Hmm.
So getting to only 7 8% share of wallet with just these 50 customers takes
Hmm.
us to 6,500 crores of revenue in the next
Wow.
5 years,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Even if we don't add a single more customer anymore.
Hmm.
So we very actively think that this is the main focus of the org. That
Hmm.
if we can just keep becoming larger for these customers, we will
Hmm.
create a very large business, right?
Hmm.
So why put so much bandwidth in getting 50 more customers? Might as
Yeah.
well
Yeah.
nurture these
Hmm.
and scale up.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
large part of our focus
Fascinating.
is there.
Um, so it seems like a lot of the business is driven through selling of ideas. Like it's not like your client is coming to you and dictating, okay, this is the design, manufacture it. But a lot of the sales happens by you showing, okay, what do you think of this? Like pitching
Yeah,
garment ideas, or showing them samples that, do you
correct,
want to buy
correct.
this? That
Yeah.
is that is like a bigger part of how orders happen.
So we curate a collection, collection is like a design collection,
Hmm.
which is customized for every customer and customized for every team in that customer or every category, right?
Hmm.
Every
Hmm.
14 days, which our design team will curate non-stop, right?
Okay.
And we will do it for categories we are not even doing. So let's say in a
Hmm.
customer we are only doing kids wear, we will
Hmm.
constantly keep keep sending them menswear ke collection, women's wear ke collection.
Hmm.
And that is how we'll sort of look to get into more and more categories and SKUs.
Hmm. Okay. Uh, when you say curate collection sent to them, you're talking of digital designs like a PDF with designs, or you're talking of like samples and all?
Both. We will send them digital designs as well. The moment there is some kind of appreciation or some kind of interest, we will
Hmm.
immediately send them physical designs.
Hmm.
And we have our individuals in all of these markets, right? So we will have, if it's a British customer, we'll have someone in London go to their office with
Hmm.
that collection. Ki, okay, this is something you had liked. These are the products.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, our your kids wear team has been very happy with us. Why don't you give us a
Hmm.
chance in women's wear also?
Hmm. Okay. So you really need your team leaders, your regional leaders to be very strong at farming, relationship building, not
Absolutely.
necessarily hunting. You
Yeah,
don't need to hunt
absolutely.
further because you're already in the big names, but farming is what will decide how much
Absolutely.
revenue the business does. Okay.
That's
Eh,
typically the kind of folks we have gotten also, right? We
hmm,
will get folks who have worked with those kind of customers for at least 2 decades.
hmm.
And I think our entire management team today, apart from me, everyone else is 45 plus, right?
Wow.
Um, Including our CFO who has like 3 decades of experience. Um,
Hmm,
so that's the kind of talent we bring in also. People who have
hmm, hmm,
been there, done that, worked with those kind of customers. Um,
hmm.
that plays an important role.
So, is this typically how the industry works? Like the manufacturers, the garmenters are constantly pitching, uh, and the customer, when he sees something, then they place an order.
Absolutely, yeah. So it'll work in
Okay.
two ways. The larger exporters will have their own marketing sales guys
Hmm,
in these markets, right?
hmm,
In most cases, the promoter or owner will travel himself, right,
hmm,
um,
hmm.
for meeting buyers and for going for those important meetings. If they don't have the capital for doing that, they will work with agents. So they'll have an agent in
Okay.
UK, an agent in France, who they will
Hmm,
say, "Ki, Acha, you get me the order, I will give you 10% commission, 5% commission on
hmm,
the value of the order." Those
hmm,
are usually
hmm,
the
hmm,
two ways in which legacy exporters work.
hmm. But the sales only happens through the designs of the garmenter.
Largely,
It's
it is
rarely
the
that
commenter
the.
who has to frontline that process. The
Hmm,
customer will always come back with more asks in terms of ये थोड़ा change कर दो, ये color change कर
hmm.
दो, इसमें ऐसा
Okay.
pattern डाल दो. But
Hmm,
the
hmm, hmm, hmm.
frontlining needs to happen by the supplier.
Very interesting. I always used to think that fashion is determined by, say, like the retailer, like say, Zudio is determining what fashion is and what, but they're curating. They're not really designing.
Correct,
Their role is more of curating, looking at what their
correct,
suppliers are pitching to them, and then picking what they feel will sell.
correct. So I think what the brand owns fully is the brand language, right?
Hmm,
That what should the overall look and feel and language of that brand be?
hmm,
Basis that they come up with the trend board. The trend board will
hmm.
dictate that okay, for
What
this
does a
season
trend
this is
board
what
look like? Like, what's a trend board?
a trend board will basically have aspects like, this is our language in terms of key, let's say women's wear SS26 trend board hai, right? So we want to do more of florals. We think that's a big theme, right? Um, Within florals, we want to do more of say sundresses and those kind of aspects, right?
Hmm,
That
hmm,
is
hmm.
sent to the vendors. Now the vendors will
Okay,
take that trend board and say, okay, the customer wants more florals. Is
hmm,
basis pe what kind of designs can I come up with, and
okay.
make those actual SKUs and send that to the customer.
Hmm. Okay, okay, okay. Got it. Fascinating. Got it. Okay. So, are you planning to raise more funds now? What's your ARR currently?
Currently, we are going at about 600 crores.
Okay. With a 28 to 30% is your
Take
take
rate.
rate in this.
Yeah, we have a 28
Okay.
30% take rate. We have a 6% EBITDA and a 5% PAT.
Wow. So, you had like a decline year also, right? Where you had negative growth. So,
Yeah,
what happened there?
just the part we discussed, right, where
Okay.
we
You
were
went, you
transitioning to moving into
sacrificed
100%
margin for
export.
orders.
Correct. One
Okay.
we transitioned to 100% exports, right?
Hmm.
Second,
Hmm.
we put very strong guardrails on unit economics.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
so yeah, that in our view, and I think our board also there was very helpful, where we were very clear it makes more sense to have a business that is profitable, sustainable, and can survive long term,
Hmm.
versus trying to build a business that can get to 1,000 crore ARR and then not have any cash flows or profits to translate into, right? Because that business, in our view, is more of a ticking time bomb that
Hmm.
you don't
Hmm.
know if it
Hmm.
will survive. Uh, Whereas our business
Uh,
today will, yeah,
hmm.
is positioned differently.
Do Does press coverage affect you as a founder? I'm sure when you had the negative growth, there would have been articles
Yeah,
about it. I'm pretty sure it would have happened, right? Like Tiger
yeah.
Global funded company, and so like does it affect you, or like as long as your investors understand, you don't care?
I don't think it affects us a lot. We are not a consumer-facing business, right?
Hmm.
To that extent,
Hmm.
if you think of our business, we have very few stakeholders, right? We have 50 customers, 200 suppliers, right?
Hmm.
These are the
Right.
these are the most important stakeholders for us.
Hmm.
ये दोनों स्टेक को उतना कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता है, right?
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
don't really
Hmm.
go by what media is saying or what the press is saying. They go by
Hmm.
what actual execution business speaks for.
Hmm.
Yeah, and apart from that, as you said, it's more of a matter of your shareholders and partners understanding and being buying into the approach. So
Hmm.
not a lot.
Okay. Are you planning another round fundraise?
Not immediately. I think
Hmm.
our thought right now is that we are PAT positive, we are generating cash flow, right? And for us to grow sustainably, we don't require more capital,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
We do see there is a bigger opportunity because there are hubs like Vietnam, Indonesia, Turkey, which we are not present in at all. And our ability to build into those hubs makes it an even more compelling and sort of one-stop shop solution for the customers, which might
Hmm.
require some additional capital, but not
Hmm.
pressing. So that's
Hmm.
it. I think we have
Okay.
been very fortunate to have two very good backers who have been um, very patient, very understanding, have never pushed us in the wrong direction. Um,
Hmm.
so, if we are lucky enough to find one or two more such partners, then maybe.
Hmm. Do tariffs affect your business? I think we're now at 50%, right? And
Correct.
I'm sure garments would be at 50% for sure.
Correct.
So, does it hit your business?
Thankfully, the impact is minimized, right? So, our US business is about 10% of our overall top line, right?
Okay.
And as I said, the business was from day zero skewed more towards UK and Europe, right?
Hmm.
So,
Hmm. Hmm.
thankfully, the impact on us is while the impact on the industry is a lot more severe, the impact on
Hmm.
us is more minimized.
Hmm.
And that's why we're also, so a lot of our US customers have reached out to us saying that if you all can give us a supply chain solution from Sri Lanka and Vietnam, we would
Hmm.
love to move that business to you
Hmm.
starting yesterday, right?
Okay.
Um,
Hmm.
and we've just
Hmm.
recently hired a country head in Sri Lanka. We are setting up our base and office there because we
Hmm.
think that makes it an interesting opportunity also. That इस
Hmm.
सिचुएशन में अगर कोई कस्टमर को जाके बोल सकता है कि आई विल मैनेज द होल थिंग फॉर यू इन श्रीलंका वियतनाम,
Hmm.
then
Hmm.
a large part of the business can go to that partner.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Uh, y- do you actually see the supply chain moving away from China? Because now India is like worse off than China, right, for an American buyer.
Yeah,
So do you see that happening, the move away from China?
we do. I think that, see, that move has been happening for the last 10 years,
Hmm.
and it's been a very gradual move. I think last year, a couple of years, the media has been hyping it up a lot more, right? So it's not as aggressive as that. It's not कि कोई चाइना से पिछले साल 1 लाख पीस खरीद रहा था अभी 10,000 पीस खरीदेगा, right?
Hmm.
It is more gradual that 1 lakh piece will perhaps become 90,000 pieces, will next
Hmm.
year become 85,000 pieces, right?
Hmm.
Some SKUs will move to India, some will move to Vietnam, some will move to
Hmm.
Bangladesh. So it is happening, but it is not happening in a knee-jerk fashion to say that all buyers are immediately stopping their China production and sourcing. China will,
Hmm.
in our view, even over the next 10 years, I think China today is at about 55 odd percent, 55, 56% in global fashion sourcing. In
Hmm.
our view, even over 10 years, that will get down to 45, 46. So they will still be the largest.
Hmm.
But yeah, there is a gradual shift happening.
So what can Indian manufacturing learn from Chinese manufacturing?
I think a couple of aspects, right? One, I think from a efficiency point of view, China is far superior, right? Which India lacks to a certain
Is
extent
that because of work ethics?
because of work ethics, because of infrastructure, all of those aspects, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think tied to efficiency from an overall sort of process point of view, and this is true even for Bangladesh, even for Vietnam, right? Um, they are slightly more efficient than what we are, right? Um, which also is something we need to work on. I think overall, from a government sort of incentive or government policy point of view,
Hmm.
a lot of countries like Bangladesh have a lot more favorable policies for apparel specifically than what India has today, right? So the FTA which you see in UK happening right now for India, Bangladesh has had such FTAs for the last 10-20 years for most of the most of the
Okay.
importing countries, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that's where
Hmm.
we have
Hmm.
some catching up to do.
Okay. 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 Interesting. Okay. Okay. Cool. So let me end with this. What's your advice to aspiring founders who are building businesses?
I think one, two, three. One would definitely be start, right? I think
Hmm.
um, in my peer circle also I have a lot of folks who have been toying with an idea for 1 year कि ये हो सकता है वो हो सकता है ऐसे कर सकते हैं, right? The first plan is never going to be met, right? When we started the company, what our first plan was versus what the plan is today is very different, right?
Hmm.
So shuru karo would be the most important. Second, I think unit economics from day zero have to make sense, right? That fundamentally, I think, be it a startup or be it a legacy business, every company exists to give sort of create value for all stakeholders, right? So that dhanda mindset needs to be there. That how are you going to fundamentally earn revenue and earn margins, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I think third would be that finding the right co-founder, finding the right founding team is crucial, right? Because these are people who will become, because over the years nobody on the outside can really understand what you're going through, neither friends nor
Hmm.
family, right? So
Hmm.
the people who are actually going to who you're actually going to rely on are going to be your co-founder and your founding team, right?
Hmm.
So that I think is something every person who starts should spend a lot of time on. Get the right partner.
Okay. Awesome. I'm going to slip in one last question.
Yeah.
Is AI affecting your business?
Not a lot of it,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
we are more of a manufacturing export business, right? So there is some element of AI being used on the design side, which we have
Hmm.
also built into our tool. But
Okay.
otherwise, on the production factory side, though, very limited.
But you could, for example, use machine vision for, like, say, what was the production today? You could have a camera which is able to count how many units were stitched, stuff like that. Like, or it's not worth it the amount of spend you'll do trying to set that up.
See, I think these kind of units are at a stage today where basic things like electricity, energy,
Hmm. Hmm.
having a basic simple ERP which is just doing data entry, वो
Hmm.
सभी नहीं है, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
first that foundation needs to be built over the next 10 years to then say that okay, now you have all of these things in place and now you can use some element of AI and automation to make the process more efficient.
All right. Let me end this. Thank you so much for your time, Subin.